I bet you didn't know how stark the contrasts were in 18th century France. Today we'll take a look into the French Revolution. France in the late 18th century was a land of stark contrasts and deep divisions. A land of stark contrasts, where the opulence of the few stood in sharp contrast to the misery of the many. The French aristocracy lived in a world of unimaginable luxury, their lives a continuous parade of grand balls and opulent gatherings. Their days were filled with lavish parties, decadent feasts, and opulent fashion, each event more extravagant than the last. The Palace of Versailles stood as a shimmering monument to their extravagance, a symbol of their immense wealth and power. It was a world of beauty and indulgence, where every whim was catered to and every desire fulfilled. But it was a world built on the backs of the suffering masses, whose toil and labour made such luxury possible.
For the peasants and the urban poor, life was a cruel and relentless struggle, a daily battle for survival. We toiled tirelessly, our lives consumed by poverty and hunger, our faces etched with the lines of hardship. The weight of crushing taxes and feudal obligations pressed down upon us, leaving us with little to sustain our families. We were denied basic rights and any say in our own governance, our voices silenced by those in power.
Resentment simmered beneath the surface, threatening to boil over as the injustices we faced became unbearable. The French people yearned for change, for a future where liberty, equality, and fraternity were not just ideals, but realities.
The French monarchy, blind to the plight of its people, continued its lavish spending, oblivious to the growing discontent. King Louis XVI and his Queen Marie Antoinette seemed oblivious to the growing discontent, their lives a stark contrast to the suffering around them. Their extravagant lifestyle and indifference to the suffering around them fueled the flames of revolution, igniting a desire for change that could not be extinguished.
The stage was set for a tumultuous upheaval that would shake France to its very core, a revolution that would change the course of history and the world to their core as the storm clouds of revolution gathered on the horizon. The French Revolution was not merely a political event, it was a seismic shift in the very fabric of society, a transformation that would echo through the ages. It was a struggle for liberty, equality, and fraternity, a fight for the fundamental rights of all people. It was a cry for justice and a rejection of oppression, a demand for a new order where all men were truly equal, and it would forever alter the course of human history, leaving an indelible mark on the world and inspiring future generations to fight for their rights and freedoms.
As the French monarchy teetered on the brink, a glimmer of hope emerged. The nation was in turmoil, with the people yearning for change and a better future. Faced with a crippling financial crisis and mounting social unrest, King Louis XVI was forced to convene the Estates General. This was a desperate attempt to address the kingdom's dire situation and to find a solution to the growing discontent among the populace. This assembly, a relic of France's feudal past, had not met for over 175 years. Its reassembly was seen as a significant event, a moment that could potentially reshape the future of France. It consisted of three estates: the clergy, the nobility, and the commoners. Each estate represented a different segment of French society, bringing their unique perspectives and grievances to the table.
The first estate, the clergy, enjoyed vast wealth and privilege. They lived in opulence, far removed from the struggles of the common people. They were exempt from most taxes and held significant political influence. Their power and wealth were deeply entrenched, making them resistant to any changes that might threaten their status. The second estate, the nobility, also lived lives of luxury and held key positions in the government and the military. They were the landowners, the elite, who wielded considerable power and influence over the kingdom's affairs.
The third estate, comprising the vast majority of the French population, bore the brunt of taxation and had little say in government. We were the shopkeepers, artisans, peasants, and laborers who formed the backbone of French society. Our lives were marked by hard work and struggle, with little reward or recognition, and laborers who formed the backbone of French society. Despite our crucial role in the economy, we were often overlooked and undervalued, our voices drowned out by the more powerful estates.
In the spring of 1789, Representatives from each estate gathered at Versailles. This historic meeting was fraught with tension and anticipation, as the future of France hung in the balance. The commoners, inspired by the Enlightenment ideals of liberty and equality, demanded radical reforms. They were driven by a vision of a fairer society, where all men were treated equally and justly. They called for an end to feudal privileges, a system that had long oppressed them and kept them in a state of perpetual hardship. A fairer system of taxation, where the burden was shared more equitably among all citizens, not just the commoners, and a constitutional monarchy that limited the king's power. They envisioned a government that was more representative and accountable to the people.
The clergy and nobility, determined to protect their privileged status, resisted these demands. They saw the proposed changes as a direct threat to their power and way of life. The Estates General, meant to be a symbol of unity, became a battleground for the future of France. The debates were heated, and the divisions between the estates grew ever more pronounced.
Tensions escalated as the commoners, frustrated by the deadlock, took matters into their own hands. They were no longer willing to be passive observers in their own fate. They declared themselves the National Assembly, the true representatives of the French people. This bold and unprecedented move was a clear challenge to the existing order. This bold move marked a turning point in the revolution, signaling the beginning of the end for the absolute monarchy. It was a moment of hope and defiance, a declaration that the people would no longer be silenced or oppressed. The revolution had truly begun, and there was no turning back. The air crackled with tension, a palpable sense of urgency hanging over the assembly. The members of the newly formed National Assembly, locked out of their meeting hall by royal decree, gathered on a nearby indoor tennis court. This unexpected turn of events only fueled their resolve. Fear and determination etched on their faces, they swore a solemn oath. Each delegate knew the gravity of their pledge, understanding that their actions could change the course of history. They would not disband until France had a constitution. This was not just a political statement, it was a profound commitment to the principles of liberty and justice.
This pivotal moment, known as the tennis court oath, was a defining act of defiance against the absolute monarchy. It symbolized the collective will of the people to stand against oppression. The oath, taken on June 20th, 1789, sent shockwaves throughout France. It was a bold declaration that resonated with the common people and the intellectuals alike. It was a clear declaration that the French people would no longer tolerate the tyranny of the old regime. The spirit of revolution was ignited, and there was no turning back.
The National Assembly, emboldened by the support of the people, began drafting a constitution that would limit the king's power and guarantee basic rights for all citizens. This was a monumental task, requiring careful deliberation and unwavering dedication. News of the tennis court oath spread like wildfire throughout the country, igniting the flames of revolution. From the bustling streets of Paris to the quiet villages, the call for change was heard loud and clear.
In Paris, the heart of the uprising, ordinary citizens took to the streets, demanding change. The city became a hotbed of revolutionary activity, with people from all walks of life joining the cause. The French Revolution was no longer a distant rumble. It was a thunderous roar that echoed through the streets of every city and village. The momentum was unstoppable, and the desire for liberty was unquenchable.
The king, facing mounting pressure, was forced to recognize the National Assembly. This was a significant concession, but it was clear that the struggle was far from over. However, he also began amassing troops around Paris, raising fears of a counter-revolution. The tension in the city was palpable, with everyone bracing for the possibility of conflict. The people, sensing the danger, prepared to defend their newfound liberty by any means necessary. They armed themselves, ready to protect the revolution and the principles they held dear. The stage was set for a dramatic and transformative period in French history. July 14th, 1789, a date etched forever in the annals of history. The day the Bastille, a symbol of royal oppression, fell into the hands of the people. The Bastille, a formidable fortress, had long been used to imprison political prisoners and dissidents. It loomed over Paris, a constant reminder of the king's absolute power.
Fueled by rumors of a royal attack and desperate for gunpowder to defend ourselves, a massive crowd of Parisians marched on the Bastille. Armed with whatever weapons we could find, we stormed the fortress, overwhelming the guards.
The capture of the Bastille was a decisive victory for the revolution, a tangible symbol of the monarchy's crumbling authority. The fall of the Bastille sent shockwaves throughout France and across Europe. It marked a turning point in the revolution, demonstrating the power of the people united against tyranny.
The date, July 14th, would forever be celebrated as Bastille Day, a national holiday commemorating the birth of a new France. With the Bastille in ruins, the revolution gained unstoppable momentum. The people, emboldened by their victory, continued to challenge the old order.
The revolution was no longer a mere rebellion. It was a force of nature, sweeping away centuries of oppression and inequality.